Hey guys, it's Maymay. I hope you guys are doing good today. Today I have a technique for you that I came up with while playing in my craft room, and I am sure someone else has done this. I'm sure this is not the first time for this technique, but I didn't do any research for it, so if there's somebody out there who's done it, that's awesome. I just was thinking, I love the look of those new stitched dies. There's lots of different companies like My Favorite Things and stuff like that that are making them. And what they are, I'm going to hold this up really close and hold it real still. Can you see the faux stitching on the edges of those pieces of paper? What those do is those dies will cut the pages to fit your cards and have those stitching marks in them. Well, I don't have those dies, and they're kind of expensive, and if you're not going to use them a lot, and if you don't need stitching on your edges a lot, then I pulled out my stitch marking wheel that I have from sewing, and this little guy is super cheap. He's plastic. You can get him in the Notion section of a lot of places. I'll even try to find a link for it somewhere. But basically what this is it has these little teeth. I'm going to try to do this without blinding you. It has these little teeth on it, and they are for marking stitch lines so you can keep your stitches straight. Now what I did was I played last night to see what was the best way to go. A couple things I discovered. Thicker cardstock works better. Thin cardstock, it will show, but on thin cardstock it kind of wants to curl the page up. And there's a couple of little tips I want to show you, so let's get started with that. So the first thing I'm going to do is decide on my card size. And the size I want to make is a standard A2 size card. So I'm going to take an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper and cut it in half. And that will give me 2 card bases. Okay, and this is just some white cardstock. I think this is Recollections white. It's not very thick, but with the tip I'm going to give you, it will work. Alright, before I start the marking, I want to score the card so that I know I have a stopping point for my stitches, so I know where to go. So this is an A2, so I'm just going to score it right here down the middle at A2, which is also 4 1/4 if your scoreboard doesn't tell you. So I have a score in the middle there. I tried doing this with a very soft material like this material. This is the stuff that Close to My Heart stamps come in, and it's really kind of made for stamping to give you a little cushy background. But this was too cushy, so this didn't work. I did not try it with my what am I trying to say? With my mouse pad, but the reason I didn't is because I felt like it would probably give me that same too squishy result. So I pulled out one of these spiral bound notebooks and just opened it to a section. Now know when you do this, you're going to waste at least one page, probably a couple, because I can kind of feel it go through. But this is just a notebook I literally use to make notes for craft projects, so I don't mind if it has those little marks. The other thing I did was I took my ruler, my Tim Holtz ruler, and I rolled on it some temporary adhesive. This is a temporary adhesive I have in my stash, and you can see it on my ruler. There's just a little bit of kind of gunk right there. It's just a temporary adhesive, and this will roll right off when I'm through. But the reason I did this was I noticed that when I put this ruler down, because there's no grips on the back, I kind of got some twisting and turning, and I didn't want that. So that's why I have the little grippy part on the back. No big deal. If you have one of those metal rulers that has the cork on the back, you probably wouldn't even have to do that. That's just an extra step. Okay, so here's my card, and this is the front of the card, and I want to run some stitching around the side. Now the first card I did my stitching very close. So what I'm going to do on this one is kind of make it a wider stitch band so you can see it better. Not too much wider, just about 1/4 inch, something like that. Alright, here's your next tip. Hold down firmly on your ruler. Take this blade and press it firmly against the ruler, and then, this is very important, you're going to roll up. You're not going to lift your wheel at all, and then you're going to roll back. So we're going to do a double roll and keep our teeth where they're supposed to be. So we're going to roll up, pressing very firmly against our ruler, and then roll back very firmly against the ruler. That gives it a double pass, and it really makes that stitch mark stand out. Isn't that neat how that does? So I'm going to do the same thing here. Now one thing is this. I'm not concerned about them crossing over at the end. That doesn't bother me. And I know with the stitch dies, if you don't want that look, then invest in those dies. But it doesn't really bother me. Now down here where my score line is, what I like to do is just take one mark on my ruler and line it up to the score line so I know where my start and finish is. So I can take my wheel and set it right at that start line. Hold my card firmly. Let me get this straighter. I don't feel like that's very straight. Hold this firmly, and remember, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to roll up and back without lifting the wheel. If you lift the wheel, you'll get messy marks because they won't be in the right spot. You see that? And now I'm going to go right beside that score line. This does not take this long. I'm just kind of talking you through it so it feels like, wow, that's a long process. But for me, it's less than having to pull out my Cuttlebug and all that kind of stuff, and I'm still getting the stitched feel that I wanted. And it's also much less expensive than those dies. And then, the last one, firmly pressing. You will have to get used to the feel of it. The harder you can press, the better. But sometimes when you press too hard, you get that push against your ruler. And that's why I added that adhesive. But you're going to have to get the feel for how much to press. But look at this cool little design. I'm going to hold it really still. See the stitching? I think it's awesome. And in pictures, you'll be able to see it really good. Okay, so now let's turn this into a card. So I'm just going to fold this guy on my score line. And I found these little pieces of things just in one of my paper packs, and I think they're cute. I found this piece of glitter paper, which I'm going to cut down to sit inside of those stitches. So I'm going to trim that a little bit. So I got this glitter paper trimmed, and now I'm going to take my angle cut. This is a We Are Memory Keepers Crocodile cut with an angle point. I love this angle for Valentine's cards. Just going to punch this little angle in the side. Like so, and then I will mount it inside of my stitch mark, which I can see really well. You guys probably cannot see that very well, but I can. I'm going to mount this with just some ATG. I like to use a little more adhesive on my glitter paper because it seems to, it's heavier, you know, so I don't want it to come loose. And can you believe we're already doing Valentine's cards? Really? But I wanted to show you this technique, and I thought, what a better way than with a Valentine card. Okay, now I want to show you this. So now I have my distress ink, and I did my white panel first because I wanted to make sure that my tool stayed nice and clean. Now let's just say we wanted to add some stitching just to look like we're going to stitch this down to the page. And I'm just going to kind of come, this is a little bow bunny little ephemera piece, and I'm just going to come right down the side, and I want it to look like I've stitched it down, but not really. Now you know if I just ran this across with this, I'd just get those indentations, but check this out. If you take your distress ink and just lightly press back and forth, you're just kind of picking up some ink, and here's what you do. Start at the bottom just like we did, press firmly, okay, and then slowly roll back, pressing firmly. And now look what you get, which is super cool. You get a little more noticeable stitch line only because there's a tiny bit of ink in there. So, I mean, it's not a whole lot in this yellow because of the color I chose, but I get a little bit, so when I take it to my card, you'll really be able to see the stitched part. Let me show you this on white. This is a scrap of paper that I was playing with last night, and let me show you what this looks like on white. So if you did this on a lighter color, I think this is super cool. And even if you did a darker color on your stamps. So I'm going to roll this across my ink pad, okay? And then I'm just going to press this down and bring it back. And now check this out. See that stitching even better? It's just slightly colored, not a lot, just a little bit to make it really noticeable. Let's try it with another color ink. So this is my Memento ink. I'm just going to put my ruler in place. I tell you what, I'm not going to roll it as far. I think you kind of get off track when you roll a long piece like that. So I'm going to roll this into my Memento ink, like so. Sit this down onto my ruler and roll it forward. Let me show you if you only do one pass. If you only do one pass, you get it darker at the beginning. Can you see how it's much darker at the very beginning of that line? Okay. Now I'm going to go back using that colored ink and see if it looks any different next to this, because we're going to use the black ink instead of the distress ink. Let's see the difference. And I'm going to try pulling this time. So you can see at the beginning you can see it really well, and then as you get going, it's not as much because the ink comes off that wheel. But if you were doing something small, like maybe 1 or 2 tickets, you could get a pretty good mark with that. I'm still going to use them because I think it looks cool. But that's just a way to do it with some ink, some different kinds of inks. I think it's kind of cool. It's much cheaper than going and buying all those dies, for me anyway. And let's finish this card up. I think this is cute. I'm going to use part of this. And I'm just going to cut it right here as if it were 2 tickets to something. And I'm just going to kind of play around with this. I kind of like this here. And I wonder if we could even do stitching around these. Let's try it. What can it hurt? You want to see if we can do it? So here's this little guy. Let's see if we can just kind of roll around it. I'm taking my time. But this might be working. We're going to learn this together if it works. Start here now. And we're just moving the paper slowly as I roll. Because that's how I roll. Check it out, it did. It stitched my heart. You see it? There's that one. Let's do the smaller one. This is kind of fun. It's kind of therapeutic, actually. So start this way, and then as you get to the edge, turn the paper. So you guys can learn right with me. Cool. Then I'm going to come back and turn it again. I remember when I was young in my grandmother's sewing room, I would get out her carbon paper and her little tool like this, and I love to just roll it and make those little dots. This kind of gives me that feel again. Check it out. I really like it. So now we have stitching on everything. Let's put the card together. Alright, I'm going to adhere this guy straight down. I've had a lot of questions about this glue again. I'm going to share with you. This is art glitter glue. It dries clear. I get it from Tupelo Designs, LLC.com, and I will leave a link below to them. So if you guys want to pick it up, it dries fast and clear, and you don't need a whole lot of it because it does get the job done. And I have a video of it where I'm showing you how to put the tip on. The tip does not come with it, so I have a video showing you how to do that. I'll link that below as well. So I want those cards to kind of not be all the way down. And then I think I'm going to lay one flat. I might even put it behind there. That'd be cute. And then pop one up. So let's put some adhesive on the back of this one. And I'm not going to the edges because I like the edges kind of being lifted. Like the movement on the card. If you're wondering about these little hearts, now these came from a Martha Stewart paper pack, and I actually fussy cut these out. I thought they were super cute. Okay, so I put a little foam on the back of those. Okay. And then I'm just going to put this guy down here where you can still see the ticket behind it some. I like that. And I had this little red metallic heart I fussy cut, but I don't know if I really need it now. Because I think it's a little much for what I'm trying to accomplish here. Now I'm going to take a little clear Wink of Stella and kind of bling this up a little bit here and there. I'm going to cover the letters. I'm just kind of brushing it. I'm not trying to make it perfect, so if it's out of the line some, it won't really matter. Just to give some bling there. I'm going to do these letters as well. I just sort of felt like this needed something else, and I have this little bit of bling in my stash that's just a piece I cut away from something else. I'm going to take some of these sequins, find 4 that match, and put them in the corners like they're brads. So a little more art glitter glue in the corner. The sticky didn't come with them when I pulled them off of the sheet. It kind of stayed on the sheet, but that's okay. You can always put some glue down. So I'm going to use my pick-me-up stick here and just drop it into the glue like so. I just think it needed a little something. It could have probably even used ribbon, but I think I'm going to stop there with that one. And we'll bring the other one back over. Now, I know the stitching is hard for you to see in person, but in pictures I hope to be able to capture it so you can see it. But that's 2 little Valentine cards made using the stitch wheel. I think it's fun, and there's no ink left on it. That's cool. So anyway, I hope that's a little way to save you a little bit of money when you're trying to make those little stitched edge cards that are so popular. And if you like this one, give this video a thumbs up. I'll put links below to any individual items like this guy. And I'll put a link to Tupelo Design so you can pick up the art glitter glue, the pick me up tool, and I use this angle piece. And they have so many more things that you can pick up from them. But these are things that I know you can get from them. So I'll have a link to them as well. Alright guys, thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed our very first Valentine cards. And I will talk to you guys on Monday. Have a good weekend. Bye-bye.